Part 81. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 819. But Morgana soon made a decision. If she didn't want to fight, she wouldn't run away. Anyway, this time she came to the Chaiwa star system to watch a show and recruit Sun Wukong. Although he didn't succeed in either of them, he still made Liang feel disgusted. Although he might be blacklisted by Liang for a while, it didn't matter. There was no connection between the devil and Liang in the first place. As soon as the thought of running away arose, Morgana's desire to fight dropped visibly. He 11 could also see that Liang Bing was about to run, but he didn't stop him because he couldn't. But can you run away and the monk run away from the temple? He 11 has been paying attention to the location of Devil number 2 and has long discovered that Devil number 2 is preparing to jump through the wormhole. Seeing that Morgana wanted to run away, He 11 also began to calculate the micro wormhole, and the location was where Demon number 2 was. After Morgana entangled with He 11 again for a while, she saw an opportunity and retreated directly into the wormhole behind her with her demon claws, disappearing in front of He 11. He 11 did not chase, but just carried the star into the wormhole that had been calculated long ago. She landed on the moon and sat down leisurely on a slope. Her eyes became dull and she concentrated on controlling the star in the distance. As soon as Morgana returned to her demon number 2, she hurriedly ordered the demons under her command to quickly jump through the wormhole to prevent He 11 from tracking her and others' location. The demons present also knew that if they were attached to an angel, they would have to live in exile in the universe for a while, so they were very active and quickly opened the wormhole and operated demon number 2 to fly in. Morgana breathed a sigh of relief until demon 2 completely passed through the large wormhole, but soon the demons under her command completely ruined her good mood. "Queen, there seems to be something behind our butts." Morgana's eyes fell on the projection created by the demon under her command, her eyes twitched and she cursed loudly at the demon under her command. "You are all so blind. That whole star followed us through the wormhole, and none of you noticed it. Queen, didn't you notice it too?" A demon whispered in a low voice, but Morgana heard it and slapped his big, bare head. Suddenly there was no sound from the demon. The demon medical officer who was treating Xiaoto's injuries in the distance saw the scene and shook his head helplessly. The queen is always like this, always getting involved in things that are not beneficial to the demonic civilization. In the end, the result is always a muddle-headed defeat. Fortunately, no brothers were lost this time. Aituo looked at the medical officer and said in a serious tone, "The queen's decisions are always correct and wise, but she just happened to be teased by fate. I believe that the queen can definitely lead us to build our own fallen free world." The demon medical officer stared at Aituo for a while and suddenly said something. "Are you serious?" Aituo felt a little uncomfortable and turned his gaze slightly and said something. "It doesn't matter." The medical officer then put away his eyes that seemed to be looking at a fool, shrugged slightly and continued. "It really doesn't matter. In China, when angels and demons are fighting in the universe, it is not peaceful here either." After smashing down the huge door guarded by many Liang army soldiers in front of him with a stick, Sun Wukong led many of his clones into the wide square in front of the Yungxiao Hall. The densely packed Sun army in the front row held sabers, shields or spears, and in the rear were archers holding weapons. But at this time, every time Sun Wukong took a step forward, these Sun army warriors took a step back. Behind Sun Wukong and the clones, a large group of warriors from the Liang army lay down, including some Liang generals. "If you Liang don't drive this thing away today, I, old Sun, will dismantle it." Sun Wukong pointed his weapon at the Liang army present and spoke loudly, but neither the Liang army, Yuan Li, nor Xiankun said anything. Just now, they tried to stop Sun Wukong from advancing in front of the gate of Yungxiaoding, but the result was several wounds on his body caused by dark alloy rods. In fact, it is impossible for Liang's side to retreat voluntarily now. Either they will be defeated by Sun Wukong, or they will kill Sun Wukong. This will at least make Liang's face look better. Just when Sun Wukong was about to directly enter the Yungxiao Hall and question Liang's ruler face to face whether to retreat, the soldiers at the rear of Liang's army took the initiative to separate to both sides. If you are afraid, you can step aside first. There is no shame in it. The surrounding Liang army soldiers felt ashamed when they heard this. When they looked up, they saw a figure wearing silver armor and holding a silver spear passing by them. It was Pan Zhen, their regent of Liang. Sun Wukong, today you go up to the sky and kill many of my warriors from the blazing sun. All this might not have happened. Now you, Shenzhou and Liang, are completely hostile. After suppressing you, I will let everyone know the consequences of disobeying Liang. After Pan Zhen finished speaking, he raised his hand to signal the others to retreat, and stayed alone to confront Sun Wukong. You are Pan Zhen, the regent of Liang. You speak really domineeringly. This is not tyranny, but the way of heaven. If anyone can disobey the way of heaven without paying the price, where is the majesty of heaven's way? Pan Zhen's voice was rich, as if he was expounding the truth of the world, and this was exactly the order created by Liang. Different from the order of justice, the Liang civilization created an order of heaven with itself as the absolute authority, like a superior god, defining the laws of all civilizations under its command, and launching thunderous judgments on erring civilizations when necessary. Compared with the righteous order advocated by angels to protect the weak, punish evil, and promote good, Liang's heavenly order is much stricter. Civilization under the order of Liang's heavenly law is actually more like subjects under Liang's rule. They must abide by the rules set by Liang and must not violate them. But civilizations under the same order of heaven do not need to worry about the invasion of foreign civilizations, because the first thing their enemies have to face is the blazing sun of heaven above their heads. What bullshit heaven, in the final analysis it's just bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Why don't you go and promote your so-called fierce sun heavenly way with demons and angels? During this period, Sun Wukong got a lot of information from Tukeo about the major forces in the known universe, and his eloquence also improved. Pan Zhen's face darkened as he said this. Because what Sun Wukong said is the truth, and sometimes the truth is more hurtful. In the eyes of demons and angels, Liang's so-called order of heaven is just a self-entertainment thing that sits in a remote corner and plays in the mud. Because of the fall of the main god, Liang has not vigorously developed the scale of the order of heaven for thousands of years. Now it relies on some former subsidiary civilizations to support it, so it does not exist in name only. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 820. Pan Zhen's expression quickly returned to normal, and when Sun Wukong saw that Pan Zhen didn't speak but instead hit the snake and followed it with the stick, he talked even more energetically. Look, you don't even have anything to say. It is true that Liang Heavenly Dao cannot control demons and angels, but it can control you. Pan Zhen raised the long stick in his hand and pointed at Sun Wukong and said solemnly. In the end, it's still about who has the bigger fist. Then you are still shouting about the way of heaven all day long. It's the way of heaven, so don't feel ashamed. Sun Wukong also raised his weapon warily. Pan Zhen felt a little different to him. After Sun Wukong turned on the dark energy analysis function of his eyes, what he saw was Pan Zhen like a burning fireball, with rays of light. Very dazzling. If you don't believe I can control you, just give it a try and you will know. Pan Zhen's words were very strong, and an orange-red energy glow glowed all over his body. Seeing this, the surrounding Liang army soldiers retreated further, and soon only Sun Wukong and Pan Zhen were left in the wide square in front of the Yungxiao Hall. The two stand opposite each other. Then I, old Sun, will give it a try today. Your so-called heavenly Dao Sutra will not be defeated. After saying this, Sun Wukong made a vertical leap and hit Pan Zhen with the dark alloy rods in the hands of dozens of clones, like a dark cloud pressing down on him. Pan Zhen saw that the orange-red energy glow in and around the eyes suddenly became blazing, and the next moment it transformed into a heaven-destroying energy storm that swept towards the surrounding area. Sun Wukong was also thrown back by the impact of this energy storm, and the other clones were also swept back one after another. At this time, Pan Zhen cut away the energy storm with his long spear in his hand, and pointed at the sky. Before Sun Wukong could figure out what was happening, the sky darkened, and a bundle of energy compressed into a bundle suddenly fell from the sky and exploded. A blazing wave of air suddenly swept around, raging in the square in front of the Yungxiao Hall. Sun Wukong was even hit by the energy of the explosion and fell to the ground and rolled several times. Several clones near the center of the explosion were blown to pieces and were turning into energy particles and disappearing. Sun Wukong also permanently lost these clones. You see, this is the power of heaven? The clone you are so proud of is a joke in front of the power of the sun. And you will soon become one of the many disobedient people to be judged under the law of heaven. Pan Zhen said in a deep voice, his tone neither proud nor happy, as if this should be how it should be. Isn't it just to destroy a few of my grandson's clones? Do you think I will care? Besides, my grandson has dozens of clones like this. Can you destroy them all? While Sun Wukong was speaking, he had already arrived at Pan Zhen's side, and the dark alloy rod in his hand was wrapped in golden energy flames and slammed out. There was a loud bang, and a circle of golden energy shock spread to all sides. The long blade with a faint energy glow in Pan Zhen's hand resisted the dark alloy rod that hit him, and a crack spread from the middle of the two to the squares on both sides. At the end, it seemed as if the square was split in two. Pan Zhen shook the long spear in his hand hard, and Sun Wukong turned over and landed on the ground dozens of meters away. He pointed the weapon in his hand at Pan Zhen, and several clones rushed past him. Changshan turned slightly in a circle, and Pan Zhen switched to holding it with his left hand. He raised his right hand and the surging energy condensed in his palm, turning into energy spheres like the sun and shooting out fiercely. Sun Wukong's clones had independent intelligence and fled in all directions, but one of the clones was too late to hide and was hit by an energy sphere and was blown to pieces on the spot. But Sun Wukong suddenly broke through the wave of fire that had not dispersed in the air, rushed in front of Pan Zhen and swung his weapon horizontally. This time, Pan Zhen did not retreat and dodge. The spear in his hand was like a dragon snapping out of his mouth. The sharp tip of the spear slid past the body of the dark alloy rod and sank into Sun Wukong's open chest. But the next moment, Pan Zhen's chest was hit hard by Sun Wukong's clone. His whole body turned into a cannonball and flew backwards for hundreds of meters. Then he turned over and landed on the ground. He stood up straight and flicked his chest lightly. First, Sun Wukong was half kneeling on the ground, with a faint golden light emerging from a hole in the armor on his chest, while his eyes were fixed on Pan Zhen. Sun Wukong was injured for the first time since his fight with Li Yang. A blazing high-temperature energy boiled at the wound on his chest, as if it was going to burn him to ashes. It seems that you are not so-called indestructible. The spear in my hand is the crystallization of Li Yang's god-killing technology. As long as Li Yang thought about it, he could easily make hundreds or even thousands of weapons like this. But there is only one of you. How do you say you should break the way of heaven and disobey him? While Pan Zhen was speaking, the carvings that looked like words all over the long spear in his hand seemed to come alive, glowing with dazzling firelight. The sun above his head also dimmed at this time, and the sky became extremely depressed. After a second or two, Sun Wukong finally dissipated the alien invasion energy from the wound and stood up again. He was not afraid that the weapon in the opponent's hand could hurt him. With that broken gun in your hand, you still have hundreds of years to go before you can kill me. Come with me and tear him apart. Sun Wukong gave an order, and the remaining dozens of clones rushed towards Pan Zhen at the same time. The weapons in their hands were slashed, smashed, or swept from all directions at the same time. Ridiculous. Pan Zhen didn't even move his feet. He pointed at the many clones of Sun Wukong in front of him and whispered 4 words. Solar flare. As Pan Zhen's words fell, a dazzling light with a diameter of tens of meters fell from the sky, like a sky-reaching light pillar, showing a color like a blazing fire, covering a large area in front of Pan Zhen. The Liang army soldiers who were watching the battle from a distance all looked away to avoid being hurt by the bright light. The only ones who could look directly at them were General Liang, Yuan Li, and Xian Kun, who were shocked by General Pan Zhen's generosity. Solar flare bombing. This is one of Liang's trump cards to deter hostile civilizations. It is one of the few destructive means in Liang's star-driven technology that can control the power. After a few seconds, the energy of the flare bombing was exhausted, and almost all of Sun Wukong's clones were burned to ashes by the extremely high temperature. The remaining few whose bodies were mutilated were also turned into energy particles and dissipated. However, the square of Yungxiao Hall was also burned and melted to create a large hole with a diameter of 100 meters due to Pan Zhen's flare bombardment. Sun Wukong did not charge with his clone, and was naturally not within the coverage of the flare bombing. Looking at the big hole, Sun Wukong felt in his heart that the heavenly court of Yungxiao might be the end of his life. But Pan Zhen wanted to kill him, and the level of attack just now was not enough. Since the opponent had no intention of retreating, he would just hit him until he did. Having determined his goals and firmed up his ideas, Sun Wukong, who had put life and death aside, felt calmer than ever before. Then there was an unprecedented bloom, and the raging dark energy began to boil on Sun Wukong's body, like a golden flame that kept burning. The terrifying dark energy tide even affected the surrounding environment, and the heaven in the sky trembled slightly under the influence of this energy. Pan Zhen's expression changed slightly when he saw this. He knew that Sun Wukong was starting to fight for his life, but as the regent of Liang and a general who had fought on the battlefield, Pan Zhen was not a softie, and his energy output was also fully activated. Don't fall behind. For a time, the sky was turbulent. Both Pan Zhen and Sun Wukong were able to hold on to the battle gods who were at the top of the known universe. If they radiated their own energy without caring about the surrounding environment, they would cause extremely terrifying consequences to the surface of the planet. Of destruction. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 821. Leng Xiren, who was flying towards China, discovered something strange about China and could only speed up through the atmosphere, hoping to be able to prevent the conflict between Liang and Sun Wukong in time. Just as Leng was speeding up, a communication from Binghua made Leng slow down slightly. Leng, how is the situation in China? When he 11 contacted me just now, he said that the conflict between Sun Wukong and Liang had become intense. Teacher is no longer a heated issue now, both sides have started fighting tooth and nail. If they don't stop them, I'm afraid there will be a fight between Pan Zhen and Sun Wukong, the regent of Liang. Binghua, who was on the other end of the communication, paused when he heard the words, and then said, "You carry my projection sword out, and I'll stop them." Binghua's tone was very casual, and Leng was stunned for a moment. "Teacher, can you really stop them with projection alone?" "What? You don't believe in your teacher's intimidation? Forget it, just listen to me. Otherwise, one of them will die if the delay continues." Leng heard the words and quickly agreed. He immediately started to connect the weapon arsenal and found the projection sword that his teacher had mentioned. Leng still remembered that his teacher once liked to use this weapon to tease him, but he did not expect that his teacher Binghua would use it to prevent the conflict between Liang and Shenzhou today. In the world of justice, after Binghua hung up the communication with Leng, he directly contacted Kesha in the Merlot Heavenly Court. As soon as the communication was connected, Binghua did not hesitate. "Sister Kesha, lend me your supercomputer." "Okay, this is an encrypted connection. I will give you sufficient permissions after you successfully connect." Kesha didn't ask Binghua why she borrowed the supercomputer, and readily agreed. After receiving the confirmation, Binghua said thank you and hurriedly hung up the communication. The reason why Binghua went to great lengths to borrow the supercomputer of Merlot Heavenly Court was just in case. The world of justice is a bit far away from the known universe, and her true self is not there, so a lot of computing power of the Tianjian system will be wasted. Fall on structuring the information transfer process. It is better to directly use the projection sword as a support point and cooperate with Merlot Heavenly Court supercomputer to build a projection with certain combat deterrent capabilities. This way, if Liang and Sun Wukong are disobedient, they can do it themselves, saving them having to just watch. Over the Yongxiao Tianting Square, an energy shockwave exploded, and the off-white floor tiles in the square were crushed and cracked. Even the Yongxiao Hall was affected by the aftermath of the battle between the two, and there were some minor damages. At this moment, Sun Wukong and Pan Zhen, who were at the core of the energy explosion, looked much more embarrassed than before. Sun Wukong's chest was penetrated by the long spear in Pan Zhen's hand, and a small section of the spear's tip came out through his back. However, Pan Zhen did not feel better either. There were many dents in the armor on his body, and his right cheek was even swollen. There has been no recovery. The reason why the two sides fought so fiercely was entirely because Sun Wukong traded injuries for injuries. Regardless of the sharpness of the long spear in Pan Zhen's hand, he would hit Pan Zhen even if he was injured. In fact, with the support of stellar fusion technology, the Changshan in Pan Zhen's hand could easily melt through the defense of Sun Wukong's body due to the ultra-high temperature generated by the tip of the tree. This gave him a slight upper hand. In fact, what Pan Zhen didn't know was that this kind of Arankar weapon happened to be the nemesis of the indestructible Vajra. Otherwise, it would be difficult to hurt Sun Wukong with ordinary means, so he would be considered an accident. Sun Wukong kicked Pan Zhen away to create distance, and also to eliminate the subsequent impact of the wound caused by Pan Zhen's weapon. Pan Zhen is even more happy to do this. This Sun Wukong is like a mad dog when he fights. It would be better if he can't be attacked by him. Moreover, he is still under the rays of the stars of the Chaiwa star system, and his energy is almost inexhaustible. He will not die if he doesn't use it up. In fact, if Pan Zhen had the super gene of the sun's light, or if his divine body had the ability to connect to stars, he would have cooked Sun Wukong with a few ultimate solar flare bombings or solar storms regardless of the consequences. But in recent years, Liang has just adjusted the gene of sunlight and combined it with the bloodline of the descendants of Sun God Emperor Hunkin. After the super gene is completely integrated with the carrier, Liang will save the time to cultivate the main god, and can directly usher in a sun goddess who is at the apex of the known universe. But all this is different in the eyes of other civilizations in the known universe who are paying attention to all this. For Sun Wukong, a previously unknown little god, other civilizations in the universe were just as disdainful as Liang at the beginning. They generally thought that he was blocking the car with his arms and overestimating his own capabilities. But then Sun Wukong defeated several Liang generals in a row, defeated the Liang Guardian, and won the title of Yongxiao Tianting. His actions were an eye-opener for the melon eaters like them. They feel that this universe is too magical. Is Liang too useless, or Sun Wukong is too powerful? Do you think the intelligence we've been investigating over the years is wrong? Liang is actually a strong man from outside. The Thunderblade observer said to the Gulansi representative on the side, with a hint of uncertainty in his tone. I think what you said makes sense. How about we suggest that when we report the battle report on the Chaiwa star system later, we can explore Liang's reality. I think it's feasible. If Liang is really so weak that it can't even conquer a pre-nuclear civilization, then the Tiandao galaxy should change its owner. In addition to the Thunder Blade and the Gulans whose own interests are related to the Tiandao galaxy, they plan to make some articles on this matter. There is also a civilization that is both happy and ashamed of the performance of Liang, that is, because of the chaos of the Tiandao Liang galaxy. The Bright Moon people parted ways with the Blazing Sun due to the virus infection incident. As part of the former Shenhe Tiandao civilization, the Bright Moon people have always been worried about their withdrawal from the Tiandao Liang galaxy. These warriors with white hair and strong postures have been thinking about how to get rid of the Liang people for thousands of years. The Tiandao Liang galaxy squeezed away. But the power of the Sun God is something they cannot disobey, so they have always remained silent in the corner of the Tiandao galaxy. After the death of the former Sun God, the Bright Moon people thought it was an opportunity, but the strength of Liang has long been different from what it used to be. Even if having lost their main god, they, the Moon people, still have no chance to re-enter the Liang galaxy. The only thing that made them feel a little comfortable was that only half of the Sun star was left. Although they didn't do it themselves, at least someone helped them avenge the destruction of the star. But the Moon people don't want the fiery Sun to weaken too much, for fear that they won't even be able to defend the Tiandao fiery Sun galaxy. I have to say that this civilization is awkward and pretentious. The remaining civilizations are really just melon-eating people. It doesn't matter whether Liang wins or loses. After all, they have no interests involved with Liang, but they hope Liang loses more than Liang wins. In this way there will be one less father riding on his head. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 822. Just when Sun Wukong was about to collide with Pan Zhen again, from the sky above the heavenly court, a simple longsword suddenly fell and was inserted into the ground between Sun Wukong and Pan Zhen. Qi frowned. But soon something happened that made them even more surprised. Faint blue energy particles appeared around the sword, and finally condensed into a female figure. Her long black hair fell halfway to her back like a silk ribbon, and the silver and the gorgeous lightweight armor highlights the visitor's extraordinary status. It seems that you guys are having a lively fight, why don't you continue? Binghua turned around and looked at Sun Wukong and Pan Zhen, who were looking a little embarrassed at the moment. Your Excellency, King Tianjian, this is a matter between Liang and Sun Wukong. I don't know what your sudden appearance means. Pan Zhen first bowed to Binghua with clasped fists to show respect, and then asked tentatively. Binghua did not answer Pan Zhen's words, but looked at the sky above his head and said something. What's so good about a farce? After saying that, Binghua directly cut off the eyes of all civilizations paying attention to this war, turning a large star field near China into darkness in the eyes of other civilizations. Pan Zhen, you just asked me why I appeared here. It's very simple, because China is what I like. I have only been away for a few thousand years, and this place was almost destroyed by you. I guess if I had come a little later, I might have seen ruins. Pan Zhen's heart suddenly realized that the thing he least wanted to see happened, but he still forcefully defended it. We, Liang, have no intention of occupying China. It was Sun Wukong who took the lead in provoking us, Liang, so we, Liang, had to fight back. Sun Wukong has been quiet since Binghua appeared. He is very quiet because he knows this female angel. She is a friend of his master and is very powerful. In addition, as soon as the other party makes a move, he stands on the stand of China and Xiang Liang. If he raises an army to investigate the crime, Sun Wukong will not talk too much at this time. But when he heard Pan Zhen's shameless remarks, he couldn't help it and retorted. Bullshit, it's obviously you Liang who came to China first to stir up trouble. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have fought against you. Binghua actually knew Liang's purpose of coming to China, because Kesha had already been angry with him, and the reason why she didn't bring it up was to see what Liang had to say. You still have the nerve to talk about monkeys. If you hadn't been the first to kill my Liang warrior, how could the situation have developed to the point where it is now out of control? The reason why Pan Zhen was so angry was because Liang did not have any plans for Shenzhou. Their goal was clear from the beginning to the present, which was the remnants of Dino, but he was embarrassed to say it in person. Because this involves a very important matter, the reconciliation treaty signed between Liang and the Dino survivors, one of the witnesses is the Heavenly Sword King Binghua. If they, Liang, brought the matter of chasing down the Dino survivors to the public, it would be equivalent to publicly saying that I, Liang, would be shameless from now on, and at the same time, it would also harm the angelic civilization. But doing it in private is different. This kind of thing happens a lot in the known universe, and angels can't control it. If you insist on insisting on it, it will be very easy to be thankless. This is the rule of the game in the known universe. As long as it is not broken, no one will bring shame on the table. While Binghua, Pan Zhen, and Sun Wukong were discussing how to deal with Liang and China, Dukao also came to Yungziao Tianting. Everyone present immediately looked at Dukao. Binghua, Pan Zhen, and Sun Wukong had different senses about Dukao, the trigger for the series of events. Pan Zhen was angry that Liang had paid such a high price this time, but still failed to wipe out the Dino immigrants headed by Dukao. He simply lost his wife and lost his troops. Sun Wukong is worried that if Dukao comes at this time, he is still thinking about negotiating with Liang. Binghua didn't have any special ideas, he just lamented that the Dino civilization could end up in such a situation. After all, it was also one of the civilizations that was once affiliated with the three major god-making projects, and was the backbone of the civilization of the Shenhe science and technology system. This can't help but make Binghua put his experience on the angel civilization. If the angel civilization also suffered heavy losses, would the situation be even more miserable than Dino's? It just so happens that everyone is here now, and everyone knows what is right and wrong, so I won't talk nonsense. Pan Zhen takes your Yungziao Tianting and leaves the Chaiwu star system immediately. It's still too late to return to Liang while your subordinates can still save you. The smile on Binghua's face disappeared, and the first thing he said was to tell Liang to get out of China. Pan Zhen didn't say anything. After his expression changed several times, he cupped his fists and saluted, then turned and walked towards Yungziao Hall. Drive Yungziao Tianting back to Tiandao Star. Pan Zhen loudly ordered to Master Liang. He clenched his fists when he returned to the Yungziao Hall, feeling unwilling to do so, but he also understood that continuing to mess around would only bring humiliation to himself. At the same time, Pan Zhen wanted to find someone who set a trap for Liang. Everything that happened in China was full of coincidences. First it was Sun Wukong, then the Angel's Holy Left Wing, the Demon King Morgana, and finally the Sky Sword King Binghua. Not to mention the Tianji King Hexi, who is still waiting in the universe but has not shown up yet. These great gods who are famous in the known universe have not seen each other for thousands of years. They are all elusive. How could they gather in this small China at the same time by such a coincidence? Someone must be planning something among them. But Pan Zhen soon had no time to think about who had tricked Liang, because there were already people waiting for them on their way back to the Liang galaxy from Yungziao Tianting. In China, Angel Leng stood next to his teacher's projection and looked at the heavenly court of Yungziao that was gradually disappearing. He deeply felt how powerful his teacher's intimidation was. Liang, who was so awesome and coaxing before, didn't even say a harsh word. Just packed up and left. Pan Zhen is quite sensible. he is indeed a guy who can maintain a civilization that has fallen in the main city of gods to the present. Liang can have him as its regent, so it may not be impossible for it to rise again in the future. Teacher Pan Zhen, didn't he retreat because of your reputation? Angel Len wondered, a little unable to understand why the teacher said this. You still look at things too one-sided. After Binghua finished speaking, she turned around and walked towards Sun Wukong and Tukeo, who were not far away. Angel Len was still waiting for her teacher to explain her doubts, so she quickly trotted to follow them. Hey, teacher, don't leave. Tell me first. While Len was talking, he wanted to hug his teacher's arm, but it was in vain. Then he remembered that his teacher's body had not come over. Today, there are only 2 chapters, no need to wait. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 823. Seeing this, Binghua had no choice but to stop. Sun Wukong happened to be talking to Tukeo over there, so he explained the relationship to Len. The reason why Pan Zhen chose to leave so decisively was because he knew that Liang could no longer achieve his purpose of coming to China. And don't look at Pan Zhen, who keeps saying that Liang is right, but China is wrong. This is just him secretly changing the concept. From beginning to end, the reason why this incident happened was because Liang wanted to eradicate it. After all, if Dino rises, another Noxian god of war may pop up and split the remaining half of the Liang star. Speaking of this, Binghua glanced at the cold expression on his face that seemed to understand, shook his head slightly and continued. Actually, even if I didn't show up, Pan Zhen wouldn't have chosen to continue fighting in the end. He was just one step behind. Why don't you fight? Obviously Liang has become an enemy of China. Logically speaking, we should take advantage of Sun Wukong to fight alone to eliminate this powerful enemy, right? In Leng's mind, as long as the enemy is confirmed to be an enemy, he should be eliminated without mercy. This is why she does not hesitate to take action when she looks at Morgana, because as long as Morgana is eliminated, the demon can be eliminated and this just order can be completely destroyed. The biggest enemy. Leng, some wars in this world can be fought at a later date, but some wars must be fought now. Do you know the difference? Seeing Leng's thoughtful look, Binghua continued speaking on his own. Because of interests, Liang and angels are different. Angels can fight for mortals who have nothing to do with them. This is because we believe in the order of justice, and even individual angel warriors will give everything they have for the things they think are beautiful. But other civilizations are not angels, they are very realistic, and most of the things they do are inseparable from profit. Sometimes you can kill other lives for so-called benefits without any psychological burden. You may not see this kind of thing often, but it was not uncommon in my era. I have told you the purpose of Liang's coming to China before, but it is obvious that they can no longer easily achieve their goals with Sun Wukong's obstruction. At this time, they need to consider whether it is worthwhile to continue fighting. Sometimes when the difference between risk and return is too big, decision makers need to carefully weigh the gains and losses, whether to stop losses in time or go all the way to the dark side. If I were Pan Zhen, I would choose to reconcile with China and stop the losses in time, and withdraw from the Chaiwa star system on the condition that China admits its defeat. Teacher, why would you choose this way? Len was a little puzzled. According to the records of Merlot Heaven, his teacher was very tough on external issues. Because Liang's real enemy is not here, it is estimated that Liang will be in a hurry for a while after returning to the Tiandao galaxy. Okay, I've said enough. These are all my conjectures, and they don't mean that they are really the case. If you have any questions, just think about it yourself. When you figure it out, maybe you can compete to be the next king of angels. After saying that, Binghua left Leng in place and walked towards Sun Wukong and Tukeo. Sun Wukong, if I remember correctly, this is your name, right? Is this how Teacher Wu taught you? Reckless, impulsive, regardless of the consequences, if there is any accident, you will be left in the hands of the burning sun. Sun Wukong listened to Binghua's scolding words and hesitated without saying a word. Tukayanat on the side was surprised to see Sun Wukong like this. The reason why Binghua is like this is that Sun Wukong is a junior in her eyes. In addition, Sun Wukong's appearance is also due to her resources to finance the transaction with Teacher Wu. The two are naturally connected, otherwise Binghua would not project it. Came here. Okay, don't act like you're being offended. You are the patron saint of China. After hearing this, Sun Wukong raised his head and said somewhat proudly. Yes, my grandson is the patron saint of China. I did nothing wrong this time. Why are you, a woman, so unreasonable? You scolded me as soon as you get up. Oh, you are still stunned, then let me ask you, if you die, who will protect Shenzhou? Don't tell me it's the person next to you. They can't protect themselves now. If you fall, they will be the next to die. Tukeo smiled awkwardly and did not explain anything aloud. Sun Wukong had just felt that he was right, but when Binghua said this, he suddenly began to doubt himself. Forget it, even if I tell you this, you won't understand. You are now mine in the eyes of other civilizations. In disguise, China has become an affiliated civilization of the angels and is protected by the angel civilization. As long as there is no major decline in the angelic civilization, no civilization will be stupid enough to bring bad luck to you. Upon hearing this, Sun Wukong immediately captured the key information in Binghua's words and shouted. Although I am very grateful to you for helping China drive away the blazing sun, when did China become a vassal state of the angels again? Tukeo on the side quickly winked at Sun Wukong and told him to stop talking. He knew that Sun Wukong might have misunderstood and thought that the subordinate civilization was like a vassal state in China. In addition to bowing to the suzerain state, it also had to pay tribute every year. They pay tribute and provide servants as cannon fodder during war. What? You're not happy anymore? Let me tell you, there are countless civilizations in this universe who want to be affiliated with angels, but others think that angels are not willing to accept them. Binghua was a bit confused by Sun Wukong's answer. The responsibilities that the angels affiliated civilization needs to fulfill are very loose. When you are unable to help the angel civilization, the angel will not ask you to assume any obligations. Instead, it will provide you with sanctuary, and certain scientific and technical assistance are more like investments than the so-called attachment and servitude of other civilizations. This behavior of angels is more like investment. Anyway, I don't agree with it no matter what. If China wants to be independent, it must not become a vassal of others. Otherwise, why would I and Li Yang fight so hard for it? Why are you so ignorant, monkey? What about us angels offended you, and made you have such a bad impression of us angels? Leng saw Sun Wukong resisting so much, and immediately became unhappy. Little girl, you angels have not offended my grandson. It is better to say that I have a good impression of you, but these are two different things and cannot be confused. Then why are you so resistant to becoming an angel's subordinate? Tell me. Seeing Sun Wukong like this, Binghua felt a little curious about why he would resist China and become a subsidiary. Although I don't know much about the truth, I have seen many people in China who are willing to be slaves and servants in order to escape the pursuit of their enemies and accept the protection of their friends. At first, the servant is grateful, and the master and servant naturally get along well with each other. But when the servant has his own ideas and selfishness, he will inevitably become estranged from his master, and eventually even turn against him. I, Lao Sun, don't want something like this to happen to China. 1. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 824. The angle of your remarks is quite novel. Since you insist on it, then the matter of China becoming an angel-affiliated civilization should be invalidated. But China must join the righteous order. This matter is not negotiable. There is no free lunch in the world. Since you enjoy the reputation and protection of angels, you have to pay a certain price. Sun Wukong thought for a while, and finally chose to shut his mouth. The order of justice. Sun Wukong heard Tukeo say that the civilization he joined was relatively free and had no restrictions, but it needed to have ethics and moral concepts similar to those of angels, which is the concept of justice. Okay, after talking about China, it's your turn now, the Dino survivors. Tukeo, you are called by this name now, right? Do you have anything to say about what happened in China? He was not very friendly towards Tukeo Hyuka, who was unfamiliar to him, and his attitude was very average. Your Excellency, King of Heavenly Sword, Dinyo escaped this time thanks to your protection. We, Dinyo, cannot absolve ourselves of the blame for bringing the blazing sun here. We are willing to use the next time to spare no effort to help the Chinese civilization gain a foothold in the Milky Way. Binghua just smiled when he heard this and said nothing. Seeing this, Tukeo knew that the words of the Dino survivors alone were not enough to obtain the protection of the King of Heavenly Sword, so he said cruelly. We, Dino, are willing to use the power of the galaxy, the god of war of Nyoxing, and all the super gene seeds that Dino possesses to cultivate China's own super warriors. I just hope that in the future, Shenzhou and His Excellency the Heavenly Sword King can help us, Dino, rebuild our homeland. Tukeo simply used all the chips in his hand to exchange for an illusory opportunity in the future. Hearing this, Binghua couldn't help but feel a little surprised by Tukeo's decisiveness. This was a big deal. The super gene seeds of the two major anti-void god-making projects were given up at the last word, and in exchange for the help of the future China. In fact, Tukeo did this out of desperation. Now that the known universe can help Dino rebuild their homeland, the information and gene seeds of the anti-void god-making project are not important. For example, angels with excellent reputations have their own god-making project system. They will not establish an anti-void god-making project. They will only learn from some of the technologies and advantages and integrate them into their own system. Other civilizations are either afraid of Liang's reaction, or they are seeking skin from the tiger. In the end, let alone rebuilding Dino, there will be no scraps left if they are not eaten, and the other party is showing mercy. There is another most important reason. God-making technology is constantly updated and improved. In this conflict between Liang and Shenzhou, Liang has already shown signs of fully understanding the sun's light god-making engineering technology, and has begun to use its unique technology to create gods. The star drive technology of the sun's light is installed on the ordinary blazing sun body. The powerful strength revealed by Angel Leng and Sun Wukong has shown that the power of the galaxy and the technical advantages of Nyoxing god of war are being surpassed. Tukeo is afraid that when Dino finally has the opportunity to rebuild Dino after spending a long time, Dino once the proud anti-void god-making project has lagged behind the entire era. It is a bit unrealistic to exchange gene seeds and technical data for the strong support of the angels, because it will give the angels an enemy of an advanced god-making civilization, and at most they can be exchanged for the angels' protection, which Liang can barely accept. That's why Tukeo placed his chips on China, a civilization that was still in the pre-nuclear era, because China's future was limitless. It was protected by Sun Wukong, a great god who could compete with Pan Zhen, and behind him was the King of Heavenly Sword. It was simply a wild start, and Tukeo couldn't think of a safer place than here. How could Binghua fail to see Tukeo's plan, but he saw that it was not necessary to refuse, it would be better to say that it would be beneficial to both parties. Sun Wukong also rarely said anything because Dino violated his warning not to interfere with the development of Chinese civilization. After the battle with Liang, he also understood that super soldiers are a good thing, and only China itself can change. When they are strong, no one will bully them. After everything was settled, Binghua no longer planned to stay in China for a long time. She was planning to go to the moon, where she still had one of her sisters waiting to meet. I thought you planned to go back to the justice world directly. In that case, I wouldn't tell you the news. Hexi sat on a steep slope, folding his hands and fingers on the knees of his raised legs, and said jokingly as he watched Binghua's projection fly over. Sister Hexi, you are just joking. How could I forget that you are still here waiting for my arrival? Stop talking so much and come sit here. Hexi rolled his eyes at Binghua and patted the steep slope next to him. Binghua walked over and did it without any problem. Hizui plans to leave Merlot Heavenly Court, as well as your former assistant officer Jingnan. I recommend them to go to your side. Don't treat them badly. How has Jingnan been doing these years? Binghua is familiar with this name, but she hasn't contacted him for thousands of years. To be honest, she has that. Hey, I didn't expect you to feel embarrassed too. Don't worry, she has lived a fulfilling life as my assistant officer and assistant over the years, and she is already a very qualified scientific research officer, but she has always had a knot in her mind. Not untied. When he spoke, he looked at Binghua with a look that looked at Tianza, with great disdain. Binghua was puzzled by Hexi's look but still asked, what not? Of course, when a certain irresponsible former holy left-winger left Tianchang, he didn't take her with him, thinking that he was abandoned. Do you think this is an asshole or a scumbag? Binghua laughed dryly and was speechless. He completely lost the demeanor of the Heavenly Sword King before. Seeing Binghua like this, Hexi felt that his evil taste had been greatly satisfied, so he had no intention of continuing. Unexpectedly, Binghua said seriously, I will find an opportunity to apologize to her. When I left Merlot Heaven, I was very confused and didn't know what to do. After I found my next target, I didn't want my former subordinates to be involved in this endless war vortex again, but obviously I was wrong. When Ran was willing to cross the barriers of the known universe and come to the unknown and dangerous sea of chaos to find me and follow me, I already understood that I was wrong. Hexi looked at Binghua in surprise, not expecting her to admit that she had done something wrong so easily. It would be great if Kesha did the same. Okay, let's not talk about such sad topics. I have news to tell you that there has been a small breakthrough in the research on the void and the fourth generation divine body. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 825. Oh, tell me, I have been perfecting my star capturing technology during this time, as well as processing neutron stars. Binghua was very interested in what Hexi said. Every upgrade of the divine body was a great improvement to the hardware. She couldn't help but not be interested. However, her research also couldn't be left behind, so she hadn't done anything in this area for a long time. Researched. You are really obsessed with this kind of thing, so first let's talk about the fourth generation divine body. Continuing with the topic we discussed last time, I created an atom that is difficult to destroy based on the atomic aggregation theory. I called it a sacred atom. Binghua knew that Hexi was sharing his joy to gain a sense of accomplishment. This was almost a common problem among scientific researchers. She was the same, so naturally she would not dampen Hexi's interest, so she asked. To what extent can a supernova be destroyed? Supernovae are the most powerful cosmic disasters except black holes and some extremely rare cosmic disasters. They have the destructive power to create the world. They are also one of the destructive weapons that Binghua has been studying. Nowadays, Binghua will encounter a somewhat embarrassing problem when developing weapons, that is, the power of the weapons is a bit excessive. If he uses it with all his strength, it will easily blow himself up into the sky, so Binghua feels a little constrained. No, according to experiments, even superstar Xian cannot cause any damage to sacred atoms. Hexi naturally saw what Binghua was thinking and spoke with certainty. Since when the technology matures, you can keep a copy for me, and I can exchange it with you for a miniature star. He 11 rolled his eyes at Binghua, but did not refuse. Microstars are a good thing, and as far as he 11 knew, Binghua didn't have many in his hands. Binghua didn't ask about the detailed production method of the sacred atom. For her who knew the angel supergene very well, it was not difficult to decipher it as long as she saw the real thing. It was rare that the sacred atom was written and programmed, otherwise the sacred atom would be a kind of atoms that are artificially synthesized and difficult to destroy or of little value. The next step is void technology. I don't know that Carl has researched to that point, but I found that this extremely special energy can break some of our common sense, just like there is a physical law or energy law that is different from the known universe. The same as the other world. I don't know if there is civilization there, and I can't prove whether it really exists, but I still separate it or this energy called void from the real universe. The so-called conservation of energy and the boundaries of time and space are a joke in the face of this energy. I finally understand part of the reason why Carl cannot be hurt by us. Although it cannot be 100% confirmed, it is very likely that Carl used the power of the big clock to transform himself into void energy or something else to change his life form, and distorted or eliminated the energy applied to him when he was attacked. Or simply convert the power that hurt him into a power that is harmless to him. In short, void technology can do many things, and I will not be surprised by any results. He 11 scratched her silver hair as she spoke. It was obvious that she didn't have much idea in this regard. Forget it, Sister Hexi, if you can't figure it out, don't think about it now. I know something about that guy Carl. What he pursues is the technology itself. Although it is dangerous, there is no rush to stop him. And in the future, if he is really detrimental to the angelic civilization, I will let him witness for himself how dazzling the light of thousands of stars bursting out at the same time is. Binghua's words have the element of comforting Hexi, but they may not become reality. When a being who has mastered absolute destruction is harmed by the thing she cherishes most, how crazy she will be, the known universe has learned from the past. Let's just believe you, Carl calls this energy void energy, but we angels can't call it that. Because when I was studying this energy, I called the universe we are in the main biological world. Let's call it secondary biological energy. If we really find secondary biological existence in the future, we can just call the universe where they are. For the subbiological universe. Hexi finally concluded this matter. Binghua was curious about Hexi's theory, but she was even more curious about whether Hexi had achieved any results, because Hexi always likes to do things only after he has achieved results. Talking about these technical theories to herself in order to maintain the status and authority of her sister in the eyes of her sister. With some success, I created a sub-biological engine and installed it on an angel warrior. What function does it have? Binghua asked. Hexi stood up from the steep slope and patted the silk skirt of his skirt. He looked at Angel Leng, who was on guard not far away, and said, "Why, I plan to install it on your students too." Binghua didn't move, just turned his head and looked in Leng's direction and said something. "If the engine works well, that might be a good idea. Then you will be disappointed. The engine can only guarantee the life of the loader when he is fatally injured. Whether it can be restored depends on whether the engine's reserve energy is sufficient. Another prerequisite is to ensure that the body is relatively intact, otherwise there is no guarantee that it will survive. For the time being, only this function is relatively mature. Then put it on." Hexi glanced at Binghua and replied with one word, "Okay. I've said all that needs to be said, you can leave." "Sister Hexi, are you rushing to drive me away as soon as we finish talking about business? You are making me too sad." He 11 ignored Binghua's words and spread his angel wings directly behind his back, leaving only Binghua's retreating figure and a word. When you come over, tell me this. Chatting with your projection is really boring. Binghua burst into laughter upon hearing this, and after sending a message to Leng, her body gradually dissipated into scattered energy particles. After a while, Leng came over and picked up the projection sword lying quietly on the grey moon soil, and put it back into the weapon's arsenal. Binghua's words to Leng were very concise, that is, pay more attention to the Chaiwa star system, because in the future several top third-generation war gods will be born here. In the Styx Galaxy and the Death Song Academy, Snow hurriedly returned here and asked to see Karl, the god of death. Snow, you are so anxious to come back, but things in China have made progress. Karl stood in his research room, reaching out and constantly fiddling with the complexly connected projection light screen in front of him like a star map. At the same time, he did not forget to ask Snow to indicate that he had time now. My God, although there were some surprises during the planning process, overall we achieved our expected goals. Dino has begun to spread their super genes in China. It is expected that after more than 1,000 years, these super genes will be completely matched and integrated with their descendants after countless blood adaptation iterations of the carriers. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 826. That's good. It just so happens that my research on the void can no longer yield any results in a short period of time. There is also a lack of channels to obtain void particles for the time being. It's time to use the technology of the void as a weapon to arm the loyal hounds below us. Karl waved his hand to eliminate the complex projection light screen in front of him, turned around and raised his head slightly to look at Snow with a pair of clear blue eyes under his hood and said slowly, My God, do you really want to give such a powerful weapon to those barbaric guys? Snow's tone was a little worried. He was afraid that those animal civilizations would be detrimental to Death Song Academy after acquiring void technology, and it would be very troublesome to clean them up. Don't worry, Snow, I have spent thousands of years planting fear of me in their hearts. Unless they are 100% sure of resisting me, they will not have the courage to resist me. Moreover, as our hunting dogs, if we don't feed them enough nutritious food, we won't have the strength to bite those powerful enemies for us. My God, thank you for clarifying my doubts. I will go and do this right now. After saying this, Snow resigned to Karl and left the research laboratory to prepare to select qualified beast body civilized warriors. This was not the first time for Snow to do this business, and he was already familiar with it. As long as the great god of death, Karl, whom they believe in the propaganda department of the beast body civilization, will bless some warriors with death, countless warriors of the beast body civilization will fight for this quota, even if they are successfully blessed. The probability is not high either. Because any beast body warrior who is successfully blessed by the god of death will gain a body of steel that will not age and the powerful power to fly into the sky and travel among the stars. This is also considered by the beast body civilization to be the highest honor. Karl, who was in his research room, saw Snow leaving happily and shook his head slightly. He felt a little lonely for a while. In fact, Snow could stay here for a while and listen more to the grand plan for the future in his mind. Of imagination. It's a pity that Snow has always respected him and feared him like a god, which caused the relationship between the two to stop at the level of superior and subordinate, and they failed to become his companion and confidant. After thinking for a while, Karl returned to his study. After staring at the portrait of Liang Bing, the king of Apocalypse, that he had drawn for an unknown amount of time, Karl hesitated and opened the communication channel where he had not spoken to Morgana for a long time. Unexpectedly, the other party did not connect directly. In this regard, Karl skillfully used part of the computing power of the big clock to directly locate the location of Devil 2 through the communication channel, and reopened a one-way communication channel to contact Morgana. The demons on demon number 2 are somewhat used to this. As soon as they hear their queen swearing in the air, it must be Karl, the god of death who has had a crush on the queen for thousands of years, coming to harass their queen again. Morgana had warned Karl many times about invading her private communication channels, but to no avail. Morgana also knew that Karl was interested in her, but she had no idea about him. In addition, every time Karl contacted her, he simply chatted with her. Karl kept talking, and she listened while busying herself with her own affairs. Over time, she took over. He did it, and only after he got tired of hearing it would he utter a few foul words. At this time, Karl would politely hang up the communication, saying that he would tell her what he had not finished next time, and then he would concentrate on his research work and grand plans. Merlot Heavenly Court. Kesha looked at Yan below and asked, "What did you see during this trip to the Chiwa star system? What do you think?" Queen Kesha, I feel weak. When facing the Demon King Morgana, I have no power to fight back. Also, without power, people from other civilizations will not really respect you, even if you are the holy left wing of the angelic civilization. Yan took a deep breath and said slowly, this trip to the Chiwa star system was a bit of a big blow to her. Whether it was the attitude of Pan Zhen, the regent of Liang, towards her, or the Sun Wukong who was able to fight against Liang and force the other side to withdraw its troops, they all let Yan know that this universe is not a place where angels can run rampant. They had just been living in the past. Just under Kesha's wings. Even the victory of the fourth war between angels and demons may be false, just a small-scale conflict acquiesced by Queen Kesha and Morgana. After all, she has experienced the strength of the Demon King's direct troops, and she has faced it head-on. Demon King Morgana. Kesha was quite satisfied with Yan's answer, and it was not in vain for her to let Yan go to the Chiwa star system alone. It's good that you know this. Nothing major will happen in the next period of time. You should consolidate what you have learned. Yan nodded slightly to indicate that he understood. Seeing this, Kesha asked Yan to retreat first. As soon as Yan left Hexi, he walked out of the opened wormhole. The time was just right. Seeing this, Kesha smiled and asked, "Have you met your good sister Binghua?" Queen Kesha, you already knew that Binghua would not come here in person, why didn't you tell me earlier, which caused me to have a fight with Morgana? This is very tiring and damaging to brain cells. Hexi pointed to his forehead, and Kesha said wisely, "Thank you for your hard work this time to protect Yan for me. By the way, I heard from Yan that she encountered Morgana. What do you think of Yan and Leng's performance? It's not that good. Yan is quite smart and knew she was outmatched, so she evacuated immediately. Although this is a bit stupid, it is understandable that she is too young and has little understanding of wormhole warfare." Hexi's words were not polite, but she felt a little toothache when she talked about the cold. As for Leng, she and Yan are simply two extremes. If Yan lacks consideration, then Leng, to put it worse, has no brains. Before the encounter with Morgana, she could protect Yan and evacuate immediately, but she insisted on fighting the devil. She confused her purpose and was dominated by the so-called desire to fight. It is undeniable that Leng is a qualified fighter, but there is still a long way to go to meet your expectations. As he 11 spoke, he shook his head slightly and sighed, feeling that the angels were really inferior to each other. Kesha wasn't angry when she heard Hexi's comments, because Hexi was comparing themselves to themselves. It didn't mean that Yan and Leng were not outstanding. On the contrary, the thousands-year-old sacred left wing and the third generation of gods were enough to explain everything. At the edge of the known universe, Huaye sat on the throne of his palace. Below him were male angels on both sides and a tall beast-like warrior with rough skin and extremely simple armor who was suppressed by two angels. "Are you willing to surrender to this king? As long as you surrender to this king, I can let your people go and let you continue to survive here." The tall animal warrior glanced at the male angels around him with cruel and joking smiles. He closed his angry eyes in pain, knelt down in humiliation, bowed his head to the aloof Hua, and saluted. Express your attitude of surrender and obedience. Hua laughed heartily, and some of the male angels below had regretful expressions on their faces. It seemed that they couldn't start the massacre. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 827. In this remote place that is not noticed by the known universe, the losers of the physical war had to leave their homes and rebuild their homes here. The beast body civilization once thought that as long as it stayed away from the Kamigawa body civilization, it would not have another conflict with them, but contrary to expectations, the war never stayed away from them. Having lost the protection of the Titans, their animal civilization, which could only carry old weapons and had no industrial base, began to regress at an incredible speed. The giant metal ships flying in the stars fell to the earth under the ruthless corrosion of time, and the weapons that could emit energy beams were paralyzed due to lack of maintenance and energy sources. The animal civilization once returned to the farming era that only existed in their ancient records. The only thing left behind after tens of thousands of years of development of civilization is a strong body and a war-loving traditional culture. Aren't there also smart beast body kings who want to learn from their former enemies and arm themselves with technology, but the tribes are falling apart? And clan, and became empty talk in the face of increasingly scarce supplies. So the civil war of the beast body civilization broke out. In the end, after thousands of years of survival of the fittest, the weak disappeared and the strong rose. The chaos that permeated every planet in this galaxy finally ended with a great beast body civilization named Seers. In the hands of the king. After completing the unification of his own planet, this king followed the example of his ancestors, learned the divine river civilization system recorded in their civilization, rebuilt the ancient beast civilization called the Shima Empire, and began to steadily develop their own technology system. With the help of the wreckage of ancient starships and various abandoned facilities that could be used for reference, the technology of the Shima Empire developed extremely rapidly. It soon re-entered the glorious era of being able to travel in the stars, and was not aware of the chaos around it. The animal civilization planet has completed its dimensionality reduction strike. Seers also relied on a big stick in one hand and sweet dates in the other to quickly complete the conquest of animal civilizations on other surrounding planets. In just a few hundred years, his sphere of influence spanned multiple planetary systems. If this development continues, this star field located at the edge of the known universe may give birth to a huge and vast animal civilization. But the good luck of the new Shima beast body civilization ended here. The Kamigawa people, who only had their long memories, reappeared and suddenly attacked a newly conquered beast body civilization planet in the galaxy on the edge of the Shima Empire. Among them, the leader the winged human tribe defeated the Titan Protoss. This news plunged the entire Shima Empire into panic. As soon as these winged humans appeared, they launched a merciless massacre against them as recorded, destroying their main city, destroying their homes, and even forcing them to surrender. I thought this beast body civilization was so powerful, but I didn't expect it to be so vulnerable. Hua sat on his throne, holding a metal wine glass and drinking down the liquid in it. The female angel wearing a white gauze dress beside him quickly poured wine for him without daring to neglect at all. King, of course. After all, they are also a group of losers, but they are enough as cannon fodder for us to conquer other civilizations. A blonde male angel sitting behind the planning table said in agreement, but other angels nearby had different opinions. I don't think they are even qualified to be cannon fodder. There are only a few broken ships on the entire planet, and they don't even have powerful energy weapons. How can they fight those Tianding people? The Tianding people were once the most powerful animal civilization under the Titans. They had their own science and technology system, and their bodies were comparable to those of the second-generation super warriors. Huaye's Tiangong royal court had been fighting with each other for thousands of years. It's not that the male angels headed by Huaye are too useless, but that the Tianding people are so fertile and have a huge population base. The male angels' several large-scale attacks have disgusted the other side with the use of human sea tactics. Huaye cherishes his feathers and is afraid that after all the hundreds of thousands of regular male angels under his command are wiped out, the male angels will not be able to stand in this star field, so he only maintains small-scale conflicts with each other. But recently, an angel reported that a beast body civilization empire suddenly appeared next to their territory. After verification, it was found that the beast body civilization was not very strong. A good idea suddenly appeared in Huaye's mind. That is to defeat this beast body civilization and use him as cannon fodder to make up for the demographic disadvantage of male angels. If one is not enough, find a few more. Sooner or later, he will trample under his feet those Tianding people who hate him. As for the gods of beast body civilizations and the huge titans, they have been nesting in a galaxy for nearly 10,000 years without moving, and Huaye is not in vain for them. Because although the titans are powerful, their population problem is even more serious than that of their male angels. The entire civilization may not be able to gather 10,000 titan warriors. While Huaye and the beast civilization were fighting to the death over some land distribution issues, a small turmoil also occurred in the known universe. On the way back to the Yungziao Tianting from the Chiwu star system to the Liang Tiandao star system, they were shamelessly attacked by the Thunder Blade stars and the Gulansi stars, and two gods were dispatched to surround and kill Liang's regent King Panzhen. The result was surprising. The sneak attack troops of the Thunder Blade star and the Gulansi star suffered heavy losses. The two battle gods who participated in the siege of Panzhen were also severely damaged. Liang also proved this matter to the known universe. The Battle of Shenzhou, it's not that their Liang has become weaker, but that Sun Wukong is too strong and finally managed to save some face. In the world of justice, after more than 10 years, Kazaa finally advanced the battle line to the first planetary domain of planetary system number 2846. This is a purgatory star whose surface is covered with vein-like magma tributaries. No life can endure it. Climate because it is too close to the star of the 2846 planetary system. The temperature difference between day and night on a planet can often vary by hundreds of degrees, and only the eternal sublimator, who is a mechanical body, would build a base in such a place to absorb the energy of the nearby star. And now Kazaa is leading a group of warriors reorganized into the Super Legion and nearly 10,000 angels from 9 groups of the First Angel Legion to attack this planet. The reason why the Defense Force and other legions are not allowed to participate in the battle is mainly because of the climate here. It is easy to cause non-combat attrition. But the warriors of the Super Legion are different from the angels. Their bodies are strong enough to withstand the test of this extreme environment without reducing their combat capabilities. Destroyer 018, which has spent more than 10 years with the main force of the 1st Expeditionary Force, is also preparing for its final battle. After collecting data from more than a dozen battles with Kazaa, a destroyer specially prepared to deal with Kazaa the Purifier Sequence body was finally completed, along with tens of thousands of Purifier Sequence mechanical warriors and hundreds of destroyers. At the same time, Destroyer 018 also received a message from the Semilo host. The Destroyer Sequence mechanical warrior prototype number 101 has been delivered from the host and is on its way to the 2846 planetary system. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 828. Are you all ready? Soon we will go to the place closest to the star to fight with those damn mechanical bastards. Check your weapons for me before landing, and don't beg your grandpa and grandma to howl on the battlefield. The sergeant captain, wearing the ultimate type of demigod armor, gave a routine pre-battle speech to the soldiers under his command. They were not afraid of the battlefield they were about to enter, because they were warriors of God and also fought with the 1st Expeditionary Force, the least attrited force. Captain, you have said these words thousands of times. Even if we forget our weapons, don't we still have a pair of iron fists? A young soldier sitting on the bulkhead of the transport ship said jokingly. Hee, boy, you haven't met him with wings yet. If you dare to meet him on the battlefield without a weapon, I guarantee you will be beaten so much that your mother won't recognize you when she comes. The oldest warrior in the team said maliciously. The winged thing in his words refers to the destroyer sequence mechanical warrior, which is the mass-produced version of the destroyer. As for the most common mechanical warriors of the Purifier sequence, they are generally called big tall ones within the Super Legion. This is mainly because the Purifier sequence is taller in order to enhance their defense capabilities, so they are called so appropriately. While the Super Legion soldiers in the cabin were still chatting, the transport spacecraft suddenly began to tremble violently, and the lights in the cabin instantly turned into dazzling red. At the same time, the cursed voice of the transport spacecraft pilot came from the communications of the soldiers present. Those bastards from the 1st Angel Legion missed a few more winged ones. Get ready to get off. You may have to get off the plane halfway through this flight. No. It was like this last time, which caused our team to drift in the universe for several days and miss the landing battle. Let me tell you, even if you hit me this time, you have to hit me at the landing point. Otherwise, when I go back, I will report to the company captain and transfer you to the logistics department. The sergeant captain warned sternly, which made the soldier driving the transport spacecraft feel excited. The logistics department is not an easy job. It is extremely busy every day, and it is also extremely boring. There is no excitement like driving a vehicle on the battlefield. Okay, I will risk my life today. Just wait for me. I will ensure that I deliver you to your destination. As soon as the pilot's voice fell in the communication, the soldiers in the cabin felt the spacecraft speed up, and at the same time there was a slight centrifugal force of ups and downs. The outside of the spacecraft had already become a mess. Angels and Purifier mechanical warriors shuttled freely in the starry sky, taking great shots at each other. Flame slashes and purification beams flew everywhere. From time to time, a transport spaceship would be hit by the purification beam. One corner of it would explode, smoke and fire, and it would continue to rush towards the first planet that was very close at hand without slowing down. The first planet had been blasted by the gods' fleet with artillery fire long before the landing battle began. At this moment, the surface was covered with the remains of the Eternal Ascended One's creations and the scorching hot surface that was cooling after burning. A transport spacecraft with melt marks all over its surface and a burning flame on the right side crashed into the charred carbonized earth from the sky. The bow of the ship deflated on the spot, and the huge kinetic energy deformed the entire hull frame. After about a few seconds, the deformed hull was slashed with several long gaps from the inside by a pitch-black straight-edged sword, and then the part of the hull in the middle of the gaps flew out directly. The impact was so powerful that I'm still confused. The Super Legionnaire who kicked through the outer armor of the cabin delivered his landing speech, but was rudely pushed away by the sergeant captain behind him. "Come out quickly, this is the place for those mechanical bastards, give me something to eat." Following the words of the non-commissioned officer captain, the others stopped laughing and quickly left the interior of the crashed spacecraft. Including the captain himself, there were a total of 11 people, including one, and no one was injured. "Okay, everyone is here, divide into two groups, the vanguard unfolds your force field shield, don't let the tall guy steal it. Also, reinstall and debug the big guys in your hands, so they don't wilt at the critical moment." Hearing this, an armored man was obviously fatter than his companions around him. The heavy-armed man carrying a miniature dark energy railgun chuckled. "Don't worry, my big baby has never let me down. Seeing that the team members were ready, the sergeant captain signaled that the team members on alert could come back. And just as the team was preparing to follow the map and join up with other colleagues to attack the underground base of the Eternal Ascended Ones, a voice came from the communication channel. "You ungrateful ones, I worked so hard to get you to your destination, and you are doing this to me." After hearing this, everyone in the team remembered that they had forgotten about the pilot, and everyone was happy when they pulled open the completely deformed and twisted cockpit of the spacecraft. It turned out that he was pinned down by the frame of the spaceship, which weighed an unknown number of tons. It was difficult to move it away with his own strength, so he didn't come out immediately. Happy to be happy, but everyone still fished him out. Simply because the soldiers of the Super Legion had long since separated from their fragile mortal bodies, they would not suffer any harm from such an attack. After some twists and turns, the team finally set foot on the road to the target point. The group moved very quickly and crossed a steep and rugged terrain in just a few minutes. 5 tall men were spotted in the sky, flying towards us. No, their target is us. After hearing this, the 2 vanguards in the team who deployed force field shields immediately stood in front of the heavy equipment to prevent the heavy weapons in the heavy equipment's hands from being destroyed. The 5 purifier sequence mechanical warriors approaching in the sky also unceremoniously rewarded the Super Legion warrior team on the ground with several purification beams. The next moment, 100 meters radius around the team was swallowed up by the fire cloud produced by the explosion. However, as the fire cloud gradually dissipated, 2 extremely solid beams of light shot out from it, killing 2 of the purifier sequences hovering in the air. The mechanical warriors were defeated. Well done. Go and kill them 4. The sergeant captain ordered in the communication that this was a good start for the landing battle and could not be let go. Quickly shoot down the rest, and the others will provide cover fire. After speaking, the sergeant captain took the lead in raising the large caliber blaster in his hand and fired into the sky, not hoping to hit the target but just to block the flight path of the enemy in the sky and create opportunities for the heavy equipment in the team to fire. This is the conventional method used by Super Legionnaires to deal with purifier sequence mechanical warriors. Their armor and tough bodies allow them to survive anti-ship level firepower, and their strong individual combat effectiveness ensures that they can defeat them when alone. Other side.